As we mentioned, NBC News confirming a Manhattan grand jury today filed criminal indictments against the Trump Organization and its longtime chief financial officer. For more on what may lie ahead, we welcome back to the broadcast Chuck Rosenberg, a DOJ veteran, former U.S. attorney, former senior FBI official as well. Also happens to be the host of our MSNBC podcast, The Oath. So, Chuck, what are you looking for tomorrow? And after, say, 2 p.m., when the indictments are unsealed, what chain of events does that then kick off?
Yeah, let me take the second question first, Brian. After folks are indicted, or perhaps an organization, they appear in court. They are arraigned. They are presented with the charges. They plead guilty or not guilty. In this case, it'll be not guilty. And the judge will set a status hearing or schedule the next appearance. They might set a trial date. But nothing much will happen tomorrow in court if, in fact, they do appear. It's rather perfunctory. What will I be looking for? The first question you asked. Paul Butler referred to it earlier. I want to see the detail in the indictment. I want to see the story. There are two ways to indict a case. One is to just recite the statute, a bare bones recitation of the elements of the crime. But another way to do it is what we call a speaking indictment, in which we lay out the entire story, the scheme, right? Who was involved? How long were they involved? What did they do? The elements of the crime have to be there as a matter of law. But speaking indictments tell a story, and I'll be looking for the story.
No offense, Chuck, while we're all around here glad you're in our lives, you never want the feds in your life as a general rule and a practical matter. So let's talk about Allen Weisselberg. What's it like when you are the focus of the feds? What's going to happen in his life?
Yeah, no offense taken. I get it. Nobody wants to wake up with the FBI at their door. Allen Weisselberg's life, if he is charged tomorrow, will change dramatically. Now, it's really important to look at what he is charged with and what the possible penalties are. And often on television, we talk about the maximum statutory penalty. But that's not really the way cases are sentenced, assuming a conviction. We'd also have to look at the sentencing guidelines under New York state law and the amount of money involved. And so it's very possible that while Allen Weisselberg could be charged and he could be tried and he could be convicted and he could be sentenced, he might not in the end be looking at a very long time in prison. And how much time he's looking at might determine whether or not he decides to cooperate. That will give us some indication of the leverage that the New York state authorities have over him and how persuadable he might be to turn or flip on others.
If the company ends up getting nicked in this case, it's been theorized that, of course, all bank loans go away. How damaging, how detrimental could this be to what is, and I repeat, at the end of the day, a fairly small family-run enterprise?
Right. Really good question, and it goes to the heart of something that prosecutors call collateral consequences, something that we have to think about before we charge an organization or a company or a corporation, Brian, are the collateral consequences. And I know you'll remember back in 2001 when the accounting giant Arthur Andersen was charged. The organization, the company, was charged in connection with the Enron scandal, and almost 30,000 people lost their job when it was convicted. An ironic side note, its conviction was overturned by the Supreme Court based on faulty jury instructions. But for a small, privately held company, there are still collateral consequences. There are employees, many fewer than Arthur Andersen, but nevertheless employees. There are creditors. There are banks that have loaned money to the Trump Organization, and to your point, may call those loans. A highly leveraged company could be at risk. I don't know that it'll go out of business. I don't know that will declare bankruptcy. I don't know what the banks and creditors will do. But prosecutors have to think about those collateral consequences when deciding whether or not to charge an organization. I am sure they thought about it here.